friends, welcome back to another episode of Guitar Talk with Todd here at Todd Beebe Music. Thank you all for checking in and joining me today. Please hit that subscribe button in the lower right hand corner and help me out. Find me on Facebook at Todd Beebe Music. Today we have a quick little lesson here, obviously aimed more at beginners. This is all about how to use a capo. Like I said, this is more for beginners, of course. I know many of you, if you played for years, probably like, why do I need to watch this? And that's true, you probably don't. But if you want to watch, I appreciate it. Or if you're a beginner, I know capos can be a little bit weird, so we're going to get into that. And not just talk about how to use it, but what's actually going on as far as with the keys and what happens when you do put it on. Okay, so as far as types of capos, I use the Kyser quick change capo. I've used this for years. I find it interesting. You'll notice on here it says acoustic guitar. They do make electric guitar capos now. They make special ones for 12-string models. Kyser has really expanded over the years. Actually, just the capo world and the capo market in general has. But this is the basic quick change capo, which for years was all you could get and all you really needed, and it kind of still is. But the big difference with their electric guitar capo is it's less pressure, which makes sense. You need more pressure for an acoustic guitar because traditionally the strings are thicker, the action's probably higher. And what happens when you use an acoustic guitar capo, which this is, on an electric, a lot of times it can press a little bit too hard and you'll find it kind of making the notes going sharp. And it really depends on a lot of different things. Like I said, the action on the guitar, neck angle, various things, you know, that affect some guitars. You won't notice the difference when you throw them on. Some you will. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more too. But a basic capo will pretty much do what you need for anything. If you want to get an electric one for your electric and acoustic, that's certainly not going to hurt. But basic Kyser quick change capo, which now says acoustic guitar on it, will pretty much do the job for anything you need. But there's various other brands. Shub is a big one. I believe there's a company, G7. Now, I have not even tried that capo, so I'm not going on record saying it's good, what I like about it or don't like about it. I've never even tried it. I'm just throwing names out there that I know I've heard. But do a little experimentation. You do have to spend a little bit of money. This is $17.99 listed basic. You could probably find it a little bit cheaper, maybe a little bit more expensive at various places or whatever, a basic Kyser capo. But Kyser's very reliable, has a great warranty. They've been around forever. I just love their stuff. I remember my grandfather used to use the old ones, the elastic ones that would go on over the front, or he had like the screw-on one for a while. He'd put a rag on the back of the neck of his guitar and tighten it because he didn't want it to mark it up. But I believe he could still get all those types of capos, but Shub and Kyser and various other brands have really stepped up the game. There's half capos now where you can do different things with tuning, and it's just mind-boggling if you go down the rabbit hole of the world of capos, what you can do with them. But today we're just kind of looking at the basic capo, especially, like I said, if you're a beginner and you're starting out, and what actually happens here with this. So right out of the gate, let's say how we want to put it on. Okay, let's talk about that. So let's just go with the 3rd fret for now that we're going to put it on. So basically, you always want the long end here going down. You wouldn't really want to go up with it. I mean, that would work, but the problem with that is that you're going to end up, you know, getting into interfering with your hand and whatnot, and that's just not necessarily a good way to have it. You kind of want this stuff on the top. So plus it's just easier to grip that way and move it up and down. So handle or grip part on the top, long part on the front, and the safety part here where your thumb would be on the back, and you just want to kind of go straight down like that and right over onto the fret. So try not to go like way down. You don't want it way down hanging like that, but you also don't want it like up here unless, like we said, you're using a half a capo, and that's a whole different kind of a thing. So you want it to pretty much cover all the strings but not overhang by a super lot here on the bottom, just going across the string. One thing I want to talk about, there's always been this debate about, and I'm sure you can find a million videos on this or other people have told you, where do you put the capo? Some people, including me, put it right up against the metal fret like that, kind of like how you would if you were barring. You wouldn't be on the fret with your finger, you'd be directly behind it as close as you could get without going on it. That's pretty much what I do with the capo. But you will read people that say put the capo right on top of the fret. Truth be told, they both work. If you listen to this, that's crystal clear. And if I put it just behind it like I was a minute ago, it's basically doing the same thing. So on it or a little bit behind it is fine. I would recommend going a little bit behind it. But again, that's just my personal choice and my personal opinion. If you read the actual instructions that come with the kysercapo, it says right here, position the open clamping jaws over the guitar neck from the top side. Locate the string spanning clamping jaw close to and parallel with the fret to be clamped. Close to, doesn't say on it. Very first thing it says for recommendations, position the Kyser quick change capo as close as possible to the fret to be clamped. As close as possible. So again, it doesn't say on it, but you will hear about people saying go right on it. But you can kind of do either way. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second too. Alright, so basically what have you done when you've put the capo on? Well, these are big time used for singers. And that's really kind of how the whole thing started. Let's say you, let's use something like Brown Eyed Girl for an example. So we've got G, C, G, and D. Okay, so let's say I was singing that and it was a little bit too low and I wanted to move it up a little bit. Instead of worrying about different chords and all that, keep your chords exactly the same. Go ahead and slap this on the first fret, and now your G chord is technically played at the 4th fret instead of the 3rd, and you've moved everything up a half a step. C, G, D, G, C, G, D. Now if that's still too low, go ahead and move it up another fret. Let's do that at the 2nd fret. G, D, G, C, G, D. And that way you don't have to ever change your chord patterns. You're doing that same G, C, D shape, but just moving it up as the capo goes up. So ultimately you're thinking of it as like you're moving the nut up, and you know everything behind here is null and void, of course, so it's just from here forward. What actually is happening though, I remember being a kid and seeing like you know, somebody playing like that. Let's leave it right here at the 2nd and playing like a G chord and a C chord and a G chord and a D chord. But then they would have like a 2nd guitar player in their band that didn't have a capo on, and he's going. And it sounds exactly the same. Or the bass players, you know, doing, that's not the exact bass line by any means, but, and he, I'm just winging it here to make a point, but bass players you never see obviously using capos. So it's like, how does that work? So what's actually happening, there's a couple of different ways you can look at it. When you're putting the capo on, like we just did at, say, the 2nd fret, just think of your chord, which in this case is G, and we're at the 2nd fret, so now just raise that up to G, G sharp, A. So technically you're playing an A chord with the capo on at the 2nd fret, even though you're still using a G shape. And then your C also goes up, C, C sharp, D, so technically that's a D chord. So we have a technical A and a D, even though we're using a G and a C shape. And then our D chord, also D, D sharp, E, so that's really an E chord with a D chord shape. So A, D, and E, so if I play this, G, C, D, with the capo on 2nd fret, it will match up with me playing A, D, and E without the capo. So that's pretty much how it works. The other way you can visualize it, and again, after a while you just start to remember this stuff, but is to just know your root notes, say, on the top string. So I kind of tend to think of it as like if the capo's there and I'm playing a G here, imagine you're playing that without the capo on. What is this note right here that's your root note on the top? Well, that's an A. So really you're playing an A chord here with the capo on the 2nd fret. But you're not thinking of it that way. Just keep thinking of it as G chord, C chord, D chord, especially beginners, because then it won't mess you up. And after a while, it's like anything, you just start to kind of know when you put the capo on what it's going to do and what key it's putting it in. But that's how, hopefully that answers a lot of questions about that. That's how, if you see 2 guitar players playing the same song, sounds exactly the same, they're working well together, but one of them's got a capo on and one of them doesn't. That's exactly usually how that's working. So thanks so much, everyone. Please comment below if you have any questions. Find me on Facebook at Todd Beebe Music. Please hit that subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner and help me out. You know I appreciate it. And we will see you all again. Stay safe and love your dogs. Take care.